We have something really important today. Your Rajih's presentation to prepare for the Viva on September the 3rd. September the 3rd, right? What we like to do with this one is like, so how many slides do you have, Rajih?
No, I'm staying on 11, bro.
Okay,
11 slides.
So imagine right now you have you have about 15 minutes or so.
Yes.
So maybe.
Pen. I don't think.
Me too.
Pen Thailand? Pen?
Oh, ada.
Ada.
Change your system as well.
Okay.
Oh yeah. So imagine right now you have about 15 minutes.
Yes.
Right. So it's within 15 minutes. You want to make a presentation as impactful as possible. Right. Now we are just practicing it, and then we'll go through the presentation. I'll give my inputs, and everyone over here. I see Parudi is present. Parudi, how are you? Chang is present. It's not so Joanne too.
Good morning, bro. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Salam dari Jakarta.
Salam.
Good morning.
Ada demo semalam Jakarta.
Oh, demo.
Demo DPR, MPR.
Besok pun ada demo lagi.
The students.
Not on students.
Ya, besok pun ada.
Besok mana?
Yeah. Parudi, are you demonstrating as well?
Yeah, maybe I will come to Penang September, end of September could be.
Oh, you're coming to Penang?
Yeah, maybe end September.
End of September. Okay. Yeah, look forward to having you again. Okay, Joanne has just joined us today now. All right.
Okay.
And Chan. Okay, yeah, that's Joanne. Joanne, thank you so much for the kerumpuk, or I don't know what to call them. The tempe goreng ke apa? Keripik tempe. Yeah. Thank you.
Tempe goreng. Actually, our soybean imported from US actually.
From US, yeah? Oh,
Yeah.
Donald Trump, be happy lah. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Okay, bro.
Okay.
Last time Prabowo went to US, he should have said, I will promise you, I will import more soybean to make tempe. He should say that instead of buying Boeing. At least you have more tempe to eat, and then export to Malaysia, and then Malaysia will come back. Export to Malaysia.
Okay, Mas Hanif, bagaimana kita jualan di tempe?
Malaysia, a couple of million, plus people like me, and tempe is you can sell it. Yeah, so that would be the strategy. That would be advice I would advise Prabowo to do that. Import $1 trillion of tempe.
Yeah.
And then you can offer for makan gratis, makan siang. Tempe is bergizi.
Yes.
Kaya, you know what tempe is?
No.
Tempe, have you eaten tempe? You have it, have you tried tempe? Tempe is this. Okay, you know tofu, right?
Yes, tofu.
Okay, you know tofu. Tofu is made of soybeans, right?
Beans,
Okay. So it's the same beans, it's fermented, but the bean is not pounded. You can still see the beans.
Oh,
It's fermented version. It's an Indonesian staple food, basically. High in protein, but people say if you eat tofu, you tend to have more carcinogenic, like women type hormones. But not tempe.
not them.
Tempe is a protein. You haven't seen. Next time when we go, or after this we go to Nusantara, saja Nusantara we go. Over there has tempe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We go to tempe. I think Bhakti also has it.
Yes, course.
You stay in Bhakti, right?
Traveling.
Or you travel, or no?
Where do you stay?
Where you staying now?
In the hostel.
Your hostel.
Where do you stay?
Where you, your hostel, your dormitory.
Where do you live?
Here, style.
Here.
Star Hill.
Star here. Okay.
What is it?
Star Hill.
Star Hill.
Star Hill is Ivory, right?
That's the cave.
Oh, okay. I know Star Hill is in Bukit Bintang. There's a Star Hill mall there. Because you translate Bukit Bintang is Star Hill.
Oh, start.
And if you are in Bhakti, the Desa Siswa Bhakti, the dormitory Bhakti, they have tempeh there. So you can try tempeh there. Maybe we are enriching our discussion a bit. Okay, Rajih, we'll start the presentation. Today is on you are the focus of today's supervision now.
Right.
Okay, the floor is yours. Bismillah.
Right, Prof. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much, Prof, for the opportunity for me to present my thesis. The topic is Being Perantau, Paradigms of Thoughts and Experiences of Indonesian Migrant Workers. The case of Penang, Malaysia. So we took in Penang, Malaysia. Let me start with the background of the study. Migration has been happening all the time since a very long time ago until today, and people usually migrate because of economic reasons, also social cultural drivers. But in the Asian context, the drivers are more various, right? Economic reasons, social cultural, political persecution, and in the past there were colonization. Also, in the specific area in Asia, specifically in Southeast Asia, cultural background could be the drivers of migration. And speaking of cultural background, in some ethnic in Indonesia, such as Minang, Bugis, and some other ethnic groups, they have law in their culture, which is migration, which is to migrate, but in the local term is merantau. So merantau is the migration form in specific ethnic groups like Minang and Bugis. Merantau is well institutionalized in their cultural law, so they must apply this merantau culture in their people. Merantau in Bugis and Minang and some other cultures must be implemented, must be applied, must be done by the youngsters of Minang and Bugis. And in the culture of merantau, individuals who go merantau is called perantau. The subject of merantau activity is perantau. We can call it perantau. In English, we can say migrant. Also, one of the most, the most dominant reason of merantau and migrate is economic reason. So no wonder we can see that there are many Indonesian migrant workers. Indonesian go abroad just for looking for better living. They want to get a better economic condition for their family. So they become migrant workers, and Indonesian migrant workers who go abroad, we can call them perantau. And Malaysia become one of the top destinations for Indonesian to go abroad. This is based on the data of the governments of Indonesia. Let's move to the problem statement. perantau is a local term and local wisdom, as I said before, in some ethnic in Indonesia like Minang and Bugis, but I will emphasize more in Minang because the literature stated more about Minang instead of Bugis. It is local term and local wisdom, and need to bring, and me as a researcher, bringing the concept of perantau, it's a local concept, right? Bringing the concept of perantau to the surface is important, so we can see the process of migration in Southeast Asia, not only in the perspective of migration, in the perspective of capitalistic, but also in the perspective of local. And the meaning of perantau itself, the meaning of merantau also itself, not just moving from one place to another, but it carries more about identity, also the culture that I stated before, the law of the culture from Minang, the merantau law. Also, the study of Indonesian migrant workers need to be enriched. So the government, especially Indonesian government, will give more concern in the study of, in the condition of Indonesian migrant workers. They will give more attention to how they treat the Indonesian migrant workers, how they give more attention to the advocation of Indonesian migrant workers abroad. The focus of the study is to understand the meaning of perantau from subjective reality. The previous studies stated that perantau and merantau are focusing on all people from the specific cultural background and dig the meanings of perantau from their perspectives. But in this study, the focus is on the Indonesian migrant workers' perspective, specifically in Indonesian migrant workers' perspective. And why I choose Penang? Because Penang is industrial area, and the proximity of Penang with Indonesia can, the proximity of Indonesia and Penang has connection with the significant number of foreign workers, Indonesian workers in Penang. We can see there are factories in Penang, there are many workplaces in Penang, and the workers, and there are many Indonesian workers in those workplaces. And the expected outcome of this research is to develop the concept of perantau and the contribution and to contribute to the development of sociology of migration studies, also in the Indonesian migrant workers studies. Let's move to the research question. My research questions are: what are the paradigms of thoughts of Indonesian migrant workers in Penang about being perantau? And the second, what are the meaningful experiences of Indonesian migrant workers in Penang about being perantau? And the research objectives are to examine the paradigms of thoughts of Indonesian migrant workers in Penang about being perantau, and also to examine the meaningful experiences of Indonesian migrant workers in Penang about being perantau. I studied some literatures related to the perantau studies, also migration, mainly the studies about Minangkabau voluntary migration from Mukhtar Naim, also Auda Murad and Nolbi Salazar, but mostly the main source of the study of perantau is from Mukhtar Naim, because he's I thought if I'm not mistaken, he was the first scholar who studied about perantau from the perspective of Minang culture. Let's move on to the methodology. Since it's a qualitative research, I need the perspective of being perantau from Indonesian migrant workers. So I use objective research strategy. This strategy allowed me to acquire more data from the social actors, their conceptualizations about being perantau, and I can re-describe what their thoughts about being perantau. The data collection method was in-depth interview, also some focus group discussion FGD. The data analysis method, after acquiring the data, transcribing my recordings, I did the thematic analysis, and there were some themes emerged in the part paradigm of thoughts, also the experiences, and also in the experiences, but in the experiences part there are so many themes, and I will present after a few minutes. And the sampling method, I use purposive sampling. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to omit the convenience sampling. My sampling method is only purposive sampling. The sampling criteria is Indonesian who work in Penang for more than 5 years. Also, whether documented or undocumented, and the age between 20 and 50 years old. They work in certain sectors like factory, construction, domestic. Also, some of them are entrepreneur and actively involved in NGO or organization or community. The respondents are 35 respondents. They come from 11 from North Sumatra, 14 from East Java, 7 from Central Java province, 1 from Kalimantan, 1 from Banten. Also, there were from Lampung and West Nusa Tenggara. Most of them working at factory and construction. Let me explain about the first finding, paradigms of thoughts on being perantau. There are 4 emerging themes in finding 1. First is initial thoughts on being perantau. The second, understanding perantau. The third, values on being perantau. And the last, results of being perantau. There are 10 perspectives or dimensions on the initial thoughts. First, the family dimension. Second, the economy. Third, working arrangements. Fourth, educational backgrounds. The fifth, spirit of gender or widow. And next, self-improvement and willingness. Also, the closeness dimension and the religious perspective. And before the last, escaping from the problems, and the last is inspirations perspective. Those 10 perspectives are the dimensions where the respondents initially thought about, I think this is the time for me to go merantau, go out from my hometown to work abroad and seek for better living. The next finding, the next theme is understanding perantau, and this includes what is perantau, the successful perantau, and perantau as a symbol of struggle. And next, to whom does the perantau title apply? from their perspective, there are two types of individuals that can be called perantau. First, individual who work abroad, and the second, who go for seeking knowledge, not only student but also just people who go work, but they seek for more experiences, and they move from one workplace to another just for enrich their experience in working in some specific field of work. And the next thing is perantau as a way of life. It's part of life since childhood until today. Perantau's struggling life is a way to gain success. Those two statements come from their thoughts and come from their stories that being perantau is educated from their very early life, not as a baby but as a kid. Also, by struggling as a perantau, it can be the way for them to be successful. And the duration and the distance, there are no limitations. The perantau, from their perspective, being perantau is there are no limits in the distance, also no limits from the duration. This can be new findings because previous study stated that the duration and the distance is limited. The duration of merantau is limited because the people who go merantau will come back someday, and it's indicate that the merantau activity is limited. But from my findings, the respondents stated that merantau is not limited. They can be, it can be forever. It could be forever to stay abroad. The finding two, meaningful experiences on being merantau. There are more than 5 themes over there, including the experience on being merantau, how the process of getting the job, the movements and mobilities, also the challenges during working in Malaysia. Let's just move to the theorization of being perantau. It is the 4-dimensionality of perantau. I divided this theorization into 4 concepts. First, initial dimensions. Second, definitional dimensions. The third, attitudinal dimensions, and the last, experiential dimensions. In the initial dimensions, we can see that there are 10 initial thoughts as I explained before. In this part, the initial dimensions try to expand the previous studies on the motivation and push and pull factors of merantau and to migrate. And the definitional dimension, including the concept, comprising of the concept and identity of perantau. You know, like the concept of the definition of perantau that has been stated in the previous studies is expanded in this part, in this study. Also, it is more than just the merantau from the perspective of Minang. It is more than that, because the conceptualization come from the people who are not from Minang background. They are from the respondent, as I said before. The respondents will come from Medan, come from Sumatera, come from Kalimantan, Java. They are not Minang, and their conceptualization are beyond the Minang ethnic definition of merantau. Also, in this definition dimension, explain about the definition of successful perantau, which is divided into three parts: the entrepreneur, the social. I'm sorry, I forgot. The entrepreneur, the person who seek knowledge, also the person who form or build or having the community. And also in this definitional dimension, describe about the characteristic of perantau, expanding the previous studies from Bokta 9. There are 6 characteristics of perantau, and in this part there are 7 characteristics of perantau. The attitudinal dimensions comprising of values, resilience, and aspirations, stating that being perantau is a struggle life, and it is the stepping stone to have better life in the future, to have better to have long-term prosperity. Also, being perantau can strengthen the faith, the religious faith. And the last, the experiential dimensions, explain about how their employment trajectories, how they started the journey until today, and how they communicate each other, having social and community engagement. Also, how they face the challenges and psychological adaptation. All right, that's it. Thank you very much. More than 15 minutes.
Yeah, more than that, yeah. Yeah, about 21, 22 minutes. So, okay, so I've gone through the whole thing. Let's do some realignment, some improvement. Yeah, I'm going to give you some.
May I record?
Sure, of course. This will be recorded, right?
Yeah.
It's
As a
okay.
backup.
Backup, okay, good, all right. I'm not controlling this one. Okay, so you're controlling it.
Yes.
Let's just, we need to be. Let's go. Yeah, go to the first one. Let's go. In Perantau paradigms and thoughts and experiences of Indonesian migrant workers. All right, sometimes all right in English. All right, the case of Penang. All right, good. All right, so this the first one. There's no issue with the title page. So as a whole, you have about 20 some minutes, 21, 22 minutes. Yeah, it started about 10:22, it ended 10:43, more or less. So about 20 some minutes. So you want to think about how to make it more concise.
Yes.
Right. So we will do some adjustment. Right. Overall, we want to see the time spent on different slides. Right. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, you do spend time on this one and on
Problem statement.
right?
Yes.
2 slides, you spend a lot of time. I think it went about 10 minutes before you enter methodology.
Yes.
So methodology about 10:32. So half of the time you spend explaining these 2, I think. The next slide is methodology, right?
Is a question, Vinny?
Research question, okay. So this is the part that you want to shorten, right? So the first 2 or 3 slides, you want to compress it from 10 minutes, reduce it to 7 minutes, the most 8 minutes, right? 7 minutes, the most 8 minutes, right? So general rule of thumb is like 3 minutes per slide.
Yes.
Okay? 3 minutes per slide. But if you shouldn't have 11 slides or something like that.
Yes.
So not the title, you remove 2, then we have 9 there. Thank you and beginning, right?
Yes.
That's 9 slides. So 9 slides times 3 is 27 minutes. So either you know how to reduce the time for particular slides or you reduce the number of slides, right? there's a tendency to spend more time on the slide usually. 3 minutes is the general rule of thumb. So you want to manage your explanation of the slides. For the first two slides, we will redo this thing afterwards. I see you use the word cultural law there.
Yes, bro.
Is it in your text too? It's in your text?
Yes.
It is in your text, okay. So you will need to explain why you put in the word law. You kind of explain that because it's almost like a obligation or for some ethnic, some sub-ethnic.
Yes.
Like Minang is almost like a law, right?
Oh yeah.
Right, something like that. But in case somebody, examiners, right, will raise the question that even among the Minang, not all are practicing that anymore. Maybe they say that. So today, or whatever sub-ethnics that practice merantau, some do not practice it anymore. Although now they're practicing because they're finding jobs outside the country. Often now there's a push to move outside of the country. Be ready to defend that because it's the word law. So you can say it's a prescribed law, but it's not necessarily being followed. Right? It's almost like a cultural law. Cultural law is not a legal law. You don't become a criminal by not doing it.
Oh yes. Oh, I see. Yes.
Cultural law, it's like you don't become a criminal by not doing it. But it is, you can say, it's elevated to a level that is a must-do in particular cultures. So, are there people who are deviant with it? Yes. Are there people who do not follow this law? Yes. But what you are saying is that it is so important that you can call it a law in certain culture. So in that case, you will need to quote some people to support your claim that it is a cultural law, right?
The literature.
Yeah, literature. Yeah, so be ready with that one. However, if they say I disagree, whatever, then you just say you don't fight. This is a small thing to fight over.
Yes.
I will say okay, I can adjust. Almost like it's still a cultural law because this is your word, right?
Yes.
Your word. You can say practically a cultural law, almost a cultural law, something like that. You can add, a modifier, an adjective to that, right? Like close to a cultural law, not necessarily a cultural law. But I can see that I can say that it's a cultural law because in some ethnic groups it becomes almost like a must, right? Minang especially. I don't know about the rest because I don't know much. Minang tends to take that to the next level usually, right? Almost like 7, 8 years old, you move up to the house.
16. From the literature. 16.
From literature. Move up in the house, but you're not separated. You go to the surau. So the concept of surau is actually a Minang concept.
Yes.
So they said surau, kapau, rantau. So surau is the first rantau, which means they move up from the house, they sleep in the masjid. They sleep in the masjid. But they still go back to change the clothes or whatever, right? Or makan, right? Yeah. Kapau, we have the kapau. We also means going to the warung restaurant, eating outside, where they have their debates and all that supposedly. This is the ideal norms, right? And then rantau, 16 years old rantau. 16 years old rantau, get out of the kampung. So they are that kind of argument. So just in case, be ready for that kind of questioning. Your methodology, let's go to your methodology a bit. Methodology. Yeah, you have the convenient sampling.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you is, the convenient sampling, is it in your text also?
No,
You already put it, right?
Yes.
Removed it, right?
I
Okay, then
removed
you
it.
remove it here too.
Yes, I forgot to remove this.
Okay, good. You got to remove that one too, right?
It's not good for qualitative research.
Yeah, you don't. Then you might have problem with. Many do not find it a problem, but social science research that might be a problem during the Viva period. So we don't want that to have that as problem. Go to your findings. Number one, finding number one. Spelling error there. There's thoughts, initial thoughts. THOUGHT. THOUGHTS.
Oh, yes.
So you want to check. I might miss out some others, but that one came out very
This one is right.
striking. Yeah, thoughts.
Okay.
Because thoughts is actually an important word in your thesis. Right?
Yes.
Okay. So you went to the four-dimensionality of perantau.
Yes.
The next one, right? The time was 10:39, which means there's almost like more than 15 minutes.
Yes.
And this is actually a very important part of
Yes.
your research. So you want to shift the time of your presentation to put this as much a centerpiece of your presentation. So you do want to use the word theoretical contribution as vision, although when you explain it, you do say you're referring to the previous literature and all that. So that's actually if you have some ways of putting a note somewhere there that the previous literature tend to emphasize on this and kind of lacking in this one, so that the examiners, when they look at your four-dimensionality of perantau, they say, oh, this is bringing the whole theory of perantau or the discourse of perantau to the next level, to a different level. So you use those words, theoretical contribution, the theory or the discourse of perantau, right? So yeah, this is where you actually want to highlight your strength, your originality, your novelty of your research, right? You want to say that all this while the previous research did not do a number of things. They did not gather their data from an abductive research.
Yes.
That's what you said. This is an abductive research. So this is a theory from the perantaus themselves.
I forgot to explain about that.
So it's an important contribution, right?
Yes.
So the previous research is how the theories, the thinkers, the scholars define what perantau is, right? Based on their research and all that. But this is how the perantaus themselves define it. So that's actually an important contribution. It's a methodological contribution, right? It's not a theoretical, but methodological contribution. But still a contribution, right? The other one, you do want to say there's a dimensionality of being a perantau. And the dimensionality that is seldom captured in the previous discourse is the initial dimension versus the experiential dimension. So there's an evolution of being a perantau.
Yes.
There's a evolution or transformation of of defining oneself being a perantau. So what happened in the previous discourses or literature, they talk about the push factor, the pull factor, that kind of thing. Motivation of perantau. So motivation is the initial dimension.
Yes.
But what keeps what keeps the perantaus there is the experiential dimension, right? So that defines them even more as a perantau than the initial dimension. You can make the argument because you can see that the lived experience in the host country, employment trajectories, all this actually came after their initial thoughts, initial dimension of being a perantau. So the being perantau itself, there's an initial dimension, there's also the experiential dimension, which the latter comes later, right? Not initial. So you want to emphasize that in your theoretical contribution,
Yes.
in your conceptual contribution of being perantau.
Yeah.
Going back to your, the whole thing is about being
Being
perantau,
perantau.
right? So the weakness or the blind spots, right, of previous studies is that they did not study it from the social actors' point of view.
That's the point.
Very important point, right? So they missed up the dimensionality of perantau, right? So they talk about the community where they are, the norms of the community, the laws, the cultural law. Minang are like this, the Javanese have this, and they might talk about kind of like a whole top-down way of defining perantau. They talk about migration, transmigration, and all that, right? So the transmigrants are also perantau, right?
Yes.
They see themselves as perantau. I mean, from Java to Bandung itself, they see themselves as perantau already. Masa the same island, right?
Malang to Trenggalek.
Huh?
Malang to Trenggalek.
You should have Trenggalek ke Malang lah.
Oh yeah.
Malang people seldom go to Trenggalek unless they get married to somebody in Trenggalek.
Oh yeah.
You should
Could be
you
this.
should do that. And there's also an interesting thing that there's usually the latter day perantau tends to move from periphery to semi-periphery, semi-periphery to center usually, whereas the older perantaus, right, might not have that kind of direction. Because like the transmigrants, they move to more rural area or places where there's land, right? So it's slightly different from moving to the city. There's also that perantaus that are happening, moving to the city. There's also perantau that just explore, cross the river, cross the sea. That kind of perantau pun ada juga kan. Just based on some hearsay or something, and just move on. But coming back to your point, there is the dimensionality. Why is the dimensionality, your four-dimensionality of perantau, why is it important, right? Four dimensionality, so maybe it should be plural, I think. But you already wrote in your thesis.
Yes.
Without, yeah? Maybe it's plural because dimensionality.
Dimension.
But it's okay. It's not big problem there. But if you could move this one to the center of it, right, or expand this one into 2 slides,
Yes.
right, and emphasize how you have contributed, just like one is the methodological contribution, the other one was about how previous studies, previous theories have emphasized more on initial dimension. Now, the normal studies are talking about push and pull factor, motivation, why people move, and then there's human resource people who come and talk about they do not have enough training, because give them training so that they can adapt to the new culture and all that kind of thing. Very the normal thing lah, about being migrants, that kind of thing, right? The other one is which you also discover, the attitudinal dimensions, right?
Yes.
So the attitudinal dimensions, which kind of overlap with the initial, which is their thoughts, right? Attitudinal dimension is also in some ways, because attitude has to do with the emotions, right? Attitude with emotions, right? In some ways, it's a dimension that translates the experience into the lived emotions. So if you look at here, you see the perantau, so they see it as a stepping stone to prosperity, right?
Yes.
So they incorporate the idea of wealth as being a value that they want to have. They want to become rich.
Yes.
Right? Basically, that's what it is. They want to become rich.
Yes.
Right? So, one thing to become rich, becoming wealthy becomes a value. So that is, and let's say that is what is it? Yeah, the cultural aspirations that they adapt to, the kind of thing. So like religious faith too, right? Some have that at the beginning, some might not have that at the beginning, right? When you told me last time that some people come to Malaysia because they feel that there's
More religious.
more religious. So I never thought that as being a dimension in the of being a perantau, right? That you come to Malaysia to become because it's more religious. But these are things that you capture in this dimension of attitudes. So the thinking and the thoughts and linking it to the experience, right?
Yes.
So the research using abductive research strategy brings out this dimensionality of perantau. So there's how the attitudes is expanded, being expressed, and then the definition of perantau also, right? So some of the perantau say, well, being a student is not perantau.
Yes.
So there's also a definition and a negative definition of what perantau is and perantau is not.
Should I explain about that?
You can explain that. So this is interesting. So they do not see certain acts practices as being perantau. So and that is not well captured or well discussed in previous works, right?
And they exactly stated that student is not perantau.
Students are not perantau. Yeah.
Some of them responded.
So this is their thoughts, right? So we want to capture that. So another dimension of being perantau is the definition dimension of it. How they define what is perantau, what is not perantau, right? And the attitude would moderate the definition. So successful, we talk about successful perantau is what, right?
Yes.
So this can only be captured through abductive research. So this is the part that you want. So this is the part that you want to highlight in your presentation. So you want to have it in at least 2 slides in there,
Yes.
right? 2 slides in there.
Yeah, I think I need to explain 2 or 3.
2 or 3, yeah. The findings. If you go up to your findings, go up to your findings again.
Findings 2.
Findings 2, findings 3. You have a number of findings here, right?
Yeah. 2 findings.
Yeah.
Contains more.
So maybe you can compress these findings into 2 slides, which say finding research question number 1. These are the findings.
Oh, I see.
Research question number 2. These are the findings.
All right.
So keep it to 2 slides. So showing that you have answered a research question. Building on the findings from the research questions is where you come up with the new theorizing on being perantau. So the new theorizing of being perantau, or the new theoretical contribution, is where you have 2 slides or 3 slides, right? So imagine right now you have about 15 minutes. You spend the first 5 to 7 minutes before methodology, right? Then in the methodology, spend about 2 minutes on methodology, something like that. The most 3 minutes is already long. It's 3 minutes. So the next 5 minutes, so half of it should be about your theoretical contribution and your findings,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So imagine that. So findings and theoretical contribution should be about the other half of your presentation. If you can slice it that way. Right? So 15 minutes. But sometimes the chairperson will allow more time. But suppose they do not allow, then you got to keep it strictly to 7 minutes, 7 to 8 minutes, right? Yeah. Okay. Now, So right now, if I were to ask you again, I'm going to ask you again, simple question. What's your theoretical contribution?
There are so many contributions, but first, expanding the conceptualization of merantau, comprising the definition, the characteristics of merantau, also how the concept of merantau from the perspective of Indonesian migrant workers, not from the people from specific or certain ethnic groups. That's the first. The second is to highlight they have to highlight the study about Indonesian migrant workers to make Indonesian migrant workers important. So I need to emerge, I need to make it come to the surface, go up to the surface, so government can give more attention to the Indonesian migrant workers, how they experience, how they start their journey, what values they got from being perantau, also the results of being perantau. That's it. But the conceptualization is can be expanded to 4 dimensionalities of being perantau.
That's it. Okay. Remember that the rule of 3, right? The rule of 3. So whenever a question like that being put forth to you, be able to say that you can start with that one. There are many. I like to highlight 3 or 4 or 5. Be clear about that. Right? 1. He said no. You need to say 1. You need to say 2. You need to say 3. So it is very convincing. It is very clear as well, and it is very concise. So you want to convince them to say, "Oh, this is theoretical contribution." I have 3 or 4 or 5. Be clear about it. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. Right? So you need to list it down. You need to memorize it, right? Not memorize by words, memorize by concept. What is this, right? Which I highlighted just now to you about the initial and then the experiential dimension. And that's a very important contribution, because most of maybe all, I'm not sure all, but many do not see that distinction between the initial thoughts and the initial dimension and then the experiential dimension of Vibra. Okay. Another one that I want to tell you is this, that there's a difference between significance and theoretical contribution, right? So significance, just now you were highlighting about the point that the government will pay more attention on that. That is practical policy and application, not theoretical contribution. Okay, it is relevant, but not under theoretical contribution. So usually there's one slide under theoretical significance and all that, right?
Yeah, I'll put it after the
After the, yes, good. So expect that to happen. Put that in after that. Another point I want to say to you is this about the title itself, right? And this connects to your point about significance just now, about the distinction between migrant workers and perantau, right? Migrant workers and perantau. So you see your contributions here, the self-definition occurring here, the way they define, which is dimension, the definitional dimension, right? The way they define themselves is no longer about being migrants, right? If you go back to your 4 dimension, it's no longer about being a migrant worker, yes. But all this different definition, right? So, so the perantau is a more encompassing concept of the identity right now. So now you go back to the idea of identity of the migrants to perantau right now. So that is another part, and that's the whole argument of your thesis of being a perantau, not being a migrant worker, right? So it's connected to the significance, how government should look at this, but it is much more than how the government should look at it, how the individual looking itself, how people constructing their identity, right, and society as well, and the way, how a theory you're looking at it. So now we see a lot of discourse, a lot of literature, a lot of studies are moving away from perantau,
Yes.
going into migrant workers, migration, right? So moving away from more Nusantara construct of people who travel to more capitalist, colonial, post-colonial construct of the travelers, which is migrant, right? With the Westphalian concept also, you can throw in it, but more so about capitalist, right?
Yes.
So how capitalism and globalization have, post-colonial reality have redefined the whole definition of a person in Nusantara who moves from one to another. Merantau. So you do want to highlight that one because it's an important part of your contribution.
What should I highlight?
In your, that's why I said theoretical contribution is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can have like 7 is fine, but if you want to highlight the main thing, maybe just 5. You can say there's more, but you will be able to just explain the 7 or 3 or 4 or 5, right? Which I think is the center of what you are studying about. Recentering perantau as the identity, right? Hanif to some extent is to a large extent, is also highlighting the part is it basically is a Nusantarization of the whole identity.
I think that is the mission.
Yeah, it's a Nusantarization of the whole identity. They're not here just as migrant workers, pekerja kilang, pekerja pabrik, TKI, TKW lagi gitu ya. That's you can even use those words, and because there seems there's a shift in the discourse, mainstream discourse, academic discourse, right? And Merantau has become a very esoteric, meaning very secluded theoretical space, right? Culture. It becomes culture, right? Whereas Merantau is the whole social reality of people in Nusantara. It becomes a culture of the Minang, culture of becomes a very small little, and there's one journal only, talking about that, or 2 journals. Whereas it's like, it's a very powerful social construct. So that you want to highlight those things in your theoretical contribution. So that's why I said spend more time in this one and be clear what is your research theoretical contribution. Okay, now I think you're familiar with all the principles. You want to go through again the principles, the 11 principles for the principle of the coconut tree sensing. You're familiar with that, right?
Yes, I'm familiar. And what's more than 2 times a week?
Yeah, I think maybe more than that, right? Again, the most important one is, I said, is about the sensing part.
Yes.
Always be sensing. So sometimes we ask, what kind of question people examiners. Actually, this unlimited number of questions they can pose to you. So sensing is actually important rather than thinking of block number 1, block number 2. You just sense where the energy is coming from, and you answer accordingly based on your knowledge. And if there's a need to change, you just assess whether small change, big change, major change. You do not want to collect data. That's very important.
Yes.
But if the change is about 1 paragraph, 1 page, go ahead and accept the change. Right? And there's no need to argue with the small changes. Just accept it, make the revisions. Right? And sometimes they're not asking you to change. They're asking you to answer the question. So you answer the question, or you asking you to explain. Then you explain. Right? So that is actually the idea of sensing, to know what is it they want, what is it they're asking. Right? That's the idea about sensing. The rule of 3 is applicable throughout your whole thesis. So what's your problem statement? You need to be able to answer 1, 2, 3. If there's 4 or 5, you say 4 or 5 as well. Right? You want to make a note, and you can say 1, 2, 3. What's your research methodology? Likewise, tell me about your thesis in short. In 1 minute, tell me what your thesis is about. Right? So you need to say, okay, my thesis is about number 1, number 2, number 3, something like that. Right? My thesis is about the title. My research question is about this. Why I do this, and I discovered this. Very simple. It's in your abstract, by the way. So do not read the abstract. No, do not read the abstract. You just explain it. Right? So that goes for what's your thesis, what's your problem statement, what your research question, certainly methodology. What's your key findings? You can talk about key findings. And if you want to highlight a theoretical contribution, theoretical contribution is built on your key findings. So you want to be able to explain that, because the strongest point is your theoretical contribution. As you say, my key findings, which leads to my theoretical contribution. So sometimes when they ask what's your key findings, they are referring to theoretical contribution. So ask the examiner, if the examiner or examiners were to ask key findings, do you want me to explain the key findings and the theoretical or the theoretical contribution? So it's okay to ask. It's clarify. It's fine to ask. Right?
That's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. Yeah. And you can even ask them, give me just 1 minute, let me think before I answer. You can do that too, right? There's no problem with that. The rule of 3 or 4 or 5 is an important rule to be able to engage in a constructive and fruitful viva discussion. That helps a lot. Right, that helps a lot, right? And just a couple more things. Remember to use "and" instead of "but." Right? I often advise this, not just advise, go through the list, right, about the Tai Chi method, right? Never fight, right? Oftentimes, in that conversation, they should use the word but. That's not good. You're fighting examiners, you don't fight examiners. You just confirm. You just use the word "and." You just shift the word "and." Whatever it is, you don't have to use. Because "but" means you're negating what they say. You're not negating. You just shift it, become "and." The statement is still the same, it's just the energy is different. The idea of not fighting is an important strategy, unless they ask you to fight. Unless they ask you to defend, right? Why they choose it? Why they use convenience purposes sampling? Why do you study Penang? Why not Klang? Whatever. There's something to be able to defend as well. Yeah. How do you defend that, right? Because sampling is something that usually people can question, right? Sampling is something you can question. So what you do with justifying sampling is to make your sampling as unique or representative as possible, right? So why is Penang the right group to study instead of Klang? You got to give strong justification. Klang is in Klang Valley, KL.
Yes.
Right? You got to give strong justification why you choose Penang. But you already gave the list. If you can go to your sampling just now, I think your sampling, this one, yeah. There you go. Yeah, okay. You explained it's not because Penang is close to.
The problem statement, bro.
Is it problem statement?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Should I move it, bro?
Then it's okay. You have the problem statement there. Why Penang industrial area? So KL is also industrial area. Significant number of foreign workers. So that KL you have more near to Indonesia. KL is also near to Indonesia. So why Penang? There is the not the easy answer to because you have some place that looks like KL too. Penang looks like KL. Well, one way to defend is to talk using empirical justification because location is also empirical. The studies conducted in Penang.
Oh.
Right? So if you can look at the studies conducted in Penang, there's not much studies conducted in Penang.
I can use that.
You can use the argument, yeah. So you can use an empirical argument to support that, because all these criteria can fit into KL very easily. KL can defeat this argument very easily, right? KL more bigger industrial area,
Yeah.
more foreign workers, right? And near to Indonesia, not too far from. I think certain, I don't know, at 10 minutes, 15 minutes by flight, yeah. Something like that.
50.
Huh?
50.
15, yeah.
Medan, Penang to Medan, 45.
45. KL to whatever, I don't know.
KL to Medan, I think
Because
1 hour.
1 hour. So yeah, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. So it's not negligible. Right? It's probably cheaper too, right?
Yeah.
When you told me it's cheaper, who told me?
Yes, KL, me.
KL, huh?
From KL to
KL to Medan is cheaper.
But just maybe you can just say because Penang is an island,
They'll be able to do that.
it's easier in terms of access people to migrate to Penang than KL.
There can be an argument.
Yeah,
but
talking about Perantau, a long time ago they used boat.
Oh, I see. Yes.
yeah,
KL is city somewhere far from the sea, right?
yeah. So you can make all those.
But in the past, people who use boat, they go to
Johor.
Johor.
Yeah,
The destination was Johor, not immediately to Penang.
To the Penang, yeah.
but I mean those from Aceh, those from Medan.
Yeah.
Johor is I think those who are from Java, right?
Yeah, Java also too. But the Riau folks also Johor juga lah. The Riau, the Capri, yeah. Capri. Maybe they were part of the same civilization or something like that. The Riau Johor, yeah. Yeah, but you're right. In Johor, there's more Javanese eventually, isn't it? Yeah, more, yeah. It's not easy, but you can use that. Why Penang is much more apt for your studies there. Right? Yeah. Oh, but Penang is an island would be one argument also to make it more unique study, right? Why people come to Penang also, right? There's also no study, not much study in Penang. That is a justification there. Right? Okay, anyone else has some inputs for Rajih?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
How should I explain about the literature review?
You have the three of categories of, three, right?
I have 2 slides about literature review.
You have 2 slides. Now they have developed a much more structured way of doing literature review, which is a what do you call it? Systematic literature review, SLR or something like that. So actually there are more than these three people, but these are 3 main ones, right? This is the, okay.
There's also your name here.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But ours is also adaptive research, but did not capture about being perantau wasn't the question. It's about how you have been working.
Yes, but the findings is important.
The findings is important. How do you what's your question there?
How do I explain in the presentation about literature review? The better way.
One way you can just highlight the literature review, right? Briefly, but more importantly is also to highlight what the literature review did not cover. The previous studies did not cover. So in a way you are looking at the gaps in research. If you find that gap. By the way, you have some spelling error again there. Kisah sukses. Stories of Indonesian migrant workers.
Yes.
Stories. F that.
Yes.
Yeah, you got it correct.
Stories. Typo.
Yeah, because So you highlight from the literature review, these are the main things, but then they lack a certain focus or themes, and so that actually led to your research as well. Right? So you look at this one, the title, the findings merantau, motivation. It's a very strong motivation. Ethnographic studies is one type that they can study that is close to you, but it depends on what the focus of the ethnographic studies. Ethnographic studies usually have certain focuses: the connection between heart and experience, connection between rantau and return. Right. So they were looking at certain focus of the ethnographic studies. So you want to highlight what is missing there. This one too. This is our study last time on Are You Happy Working in Malaysia. That's a very straightforward research. But we capture a lot of things there, but very focused research. So you want to talk about previous studies, what they focus on and what they are lacking. That's how we capture. You can check on systematic literature review as well. What certain principles there that you can use to explain your literature review. SLR, some method in the SLR, which becomes a methodology right now. Yes. Yeah. Okay, what else?
The rule of 3, bro.
The rule of 3, yeah.
The rule of 3 when answering the theoretical contribution.
Yeah.
It must be exactly same like I
Right in your thesis.
Yes, bro.
It should be corresponding to what you wrote in your thesis. But if you have something new or you want to highlight certain other things, you could do that. And if they say, how come you did not include it in your write-up? Okay, I'll take note of that. Right? Yeah, that's simple, right? That's not difficult. That's just like a 1 page, 2 pages, the most 3 pages, you know.
Yes.
And you know your stuff, you can write. You know, that can be done just 1 day.
Yes.
Right? So yeah, you can, because sometimes after 1 month, 2 months not looking at your work, you discover, oh, actually something else, right? Especially for analysis, it requires some reflection to come up with. Analysis is about coming up with the theories, the significance, you know, the theoretical contribution that as well. And actually, that's the part. For me, that's the part that's more meaningful and fun. Even though I do teach methodology, but the one that attracts me to social sciences is the theory, right? So, like Carlyle discovered new theory perspectives about CSR. That is what is that new explanation. That's what theory is, right? Explaining something, right? That's what the theory is. That makes social science research fun and meaningful. Explaining something that wasn't explained before. That's what theory is, and people did not see it that way before. Did not realize that. That is, makes it more. But then, oftentimes, people or even examiners seldom talk about theories because the theory is specific to the researcher usually, right? So you know more about your theory. So it's actually your ultimate weapon there. It's like your silat call it what? Jurusan
Pamungkas.
Huh?
Jurus pamungkas.
Jurus pamungkas. That kills, right?
Yes.
In Chinese, 绝招. So the last hit that kills the enemy or defeats the enemy. Am I right? 绝招, okay, istilah buah terakhir. Pemungkas.
Serangan terakhir nih apa ya?
Apa? Pemungkas ya, apa?
Mungkin
Pemungkas
it's ultimate attack.
Ultimate attack, yeah. Pemungkas means what? If you translate in English.
Oh. Wait. Apa nih?
Pemungkas what?
The last.
J, what's pemungkas, J? If it's in English?
The last.
The last.
The last.
Okay, yeah, the last. The ultimate. Buah kat Indonesia Island is jurusan terakhir, jurusan maut yang terakhir.
Jurusan maut.
Jurus maut, yeah. In certain silat batin, certain things you cannot use it because it's like you do not want to kill because it's like jurusan maut. So, but remember we talk about data being your shield, right? But the theoretical contribution is your sword. Is where you really kill using your sword. But the shield defends you from being killed. The sword is where you kill the attacker. So they can argue that you actually have strong theories. But usually in most of the thesis strategy we use the defense. We play the defense game. Because defense game, you cannot lose. And when you do not lose, you pass, basically, right? That's where the data is important. Right? So if you look at the way I promote thesis strategy, is strong data, strong. Because sometimes the sword is not strong enough to fight with the examiners. Right? So there were times that the examiner's sword is stronger than your sword. That's why it's problematic. Because I remember one of the students, he was saying it was a theory, and so happened that the examiner teaches that theory. This is not realism. Realism is this, and I teach the realism. but it did not kill the because the shield is strong enough. It's enough to cannot. When the shield is strong, whatever sword comes in cannot kill you. But when you have sword fighting, right? You rely on sword fighting enough. The examiner usually might have better swords, and they also have more power, right? So it's not a fair fight. Not a fair fight. So shield defense fight is better in Viva. Defensive fight is better, right? So like a football, you play a defensive game. You exhaust the opponent like a soccer game, right? You exhaust them, and then you cannot find anyone. That's where you score the goal, right? The Muhammad Ali style, that you let people hit you at the end, you just do a one punch and they knock out. You just exhaust. Huh? Yeah, defensive. It's a defensive game. This whole Sun Tzu game, right? Because Sun Tzu say when you do not have the power, you got to play a different game. And in Viva, you do not have the power.
Yes.
You have power, but your power is different, right?
Of course.
You don't have the power to conquer, right? You don't have the power to attack and conquer because they are doing the attacking. So when you know that attacking is coming, we play a different game, right? You play a defensive game. Let them attack what they want to attack. Let them go to this path.
Design is art.
So we play the Sun Tzu game. And they have power, right? They have almost like absolute power. Examiners have absolute power, right?
Of course.
So we let them do what they want to do, but we have our fort is strong enough, and let them attack what they want to attack. Yes, and then they get exhausted. Like last time in Chowle's case, it was like 3 hours or something like that. Oh, it was a long examination. I thought it's a bit unfair already, but Chowle Chandran's data was strong enough to not to fail. Strong, so we cannot. I know that she cannot fail. I was quite sure. But after a while, the examiners get tired. They cannot fight a long fight, right? Okay. What else? Any more thoughts or something you want to share? Otherwise, we will call it a day. Hanif, you have something? You study on perantau as well. So. Hanif, you use the word perantau in your. You did, right? You did. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So we see Chang, Johan, Rudy. Who else is here?
Maybe input from Mbak Johan, bro.
But Johan, you have something? Jane also here.
No, Prof. I
Okay.
just pray for you.
No.
You can
Thank you,
pass
Thank you.
Viva.
Yeah.
Rajih.
Okay. Rajih has been through a long journey. He's a perantau also.
Chang also has quite long journey.
Oh, Chang, 10 years, Chang. I know, Chang, 10 years. Right, Chang? But he's gone through mountains and rivers and oceans and and a different supervisor too at that time. Remember that one, right? Who's your supervisor before me, Chang?
Prof. Murad.
Oh, Prora. Yeah. Okay. Forgot already. Yeah, I had a couple of students from Murad. Muhammad as well from Iran. I think from Murad as well. Yeah, from Murad. Yeah. Okay, yeah. I do have the experience too, change of supervisor. Not change, because my supervisor went on sabbatical and then I went to a different supervisor and then went to a honeymoon period. Not the supervisor, me, because I don't know what I'm being supervised on. So I went to media for a while before I came back to my what I wanted to do. So yeah. That's another challenge when you have different supervisors. Okay, Rajih, right?
Thank you very much, Prof.
Kaila, you have something you want to add? Anything else?
No.
Okay. Okay, Rajih.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Welcome.
Thank you, everyone.